Hello ladies and gentlemen, Jason Gomes. Just wanted to give you another quick video. Somebody asked me to elaborate a little bit more on universal field theory. So got a few things I want to talk about. We're going to talk about one, painting a balloon. We're going to point out with the armillary wheel, cymatics. Also going to talk about quasars, which are black holes eating suns, and some of the properties of water, which bring all of this together. So first of all, very simple. What we do understand about the universe is that everything is vibrational, that all the atoms in the universe are vibrating at a specific rate, the atomic spin. So you've got micro pulsations which cause rotations. You got the penny and the balloon spinning around. I don't know if you can see that very well in the video, but when you get rotation, you're going to get angular force, and you're going to get from the center a perpendicular angular force, which is where we get the second form of energy in the equation E equals mc squared. So what Einstein was saying was that this right here would be like a wormhole that's created by black holes. So in the wormhole you get rotation around the circle that's created, and then you also get rotation around the total field, which creates time loop, which is how we experience time. So when you look at that's actually why we've got this armillary wheel. Now, what Nikola Tesla described in his electromagnetic field theory, which is accurate compared to the gravitational field theory of relativity, which doesn't actually mathematically work out, which is why Albert Einstein was so upset for his entire life, because he couldn't actually explain what he was talking about in a way that could be proven. But you get 90-degree offsets, right? So electromagnetism creates energy that is, so you have one field of rotation. So if there's only one field of rotation, then Newtonian mechanics would work quite nicely, because you would have a very predictable pattern of movement, which you could calculate. But as soon as you add into rotation a second field, now you get chaos, which is why Albert Einstein wasn't able to predict any of the equations. He just, in fact, was very upset about the idea that the universe was chaos. But it's not actually chaos. It's intertwined rotating fields of electromagnetism, which are created from high-speed pulsation coming from black holes. And we'll cover that in a second after I explain real quickly cymatics. So what you're looking at in this video is, from the very center you have a pulse. We'll call that the quasar, and then it's going to wrap all the way out to the outer edge there, and where it's reflected back in on itself, and this reflection causes cross waves, or otherwise waves that they cancel out and waves that amplify. Now, where the waves are being amplified is the black portions, where essentially the grains of sand, rice, whatever kind of material you're putting on there, they can't stand on that part, so it'll be bounced over to one of the portions of the plate where these waves cancel out. Now, this is actually in relevance to ether. So the idea is, like, if you were to look at our sun, in between our sun and our planet, there is a field where the pulsations are so intense and rapid, but they're also so microscopically small that nothing can essentially, like, that's what propagates light back and forth between these two. And because these pulsations are much, much faster, no matter which direction they flow, and they're always going to essentially flow at the same speed. When you're looking at the human body, you get standing waves because you have water. Water is a liquid crystal superconductor, which essentially transmits energy very, very rapidly. Now, the idea is, when you look in space, you're going to get quasars. Now, quasars, if you look at this picture here, at the very center you get like a little accretion disk, and the disk itself is spinning very, very rapidly, which allows it to absorb matter very, very rapidly, even though it's very, very dense. It's the most dense thing that you can possibly observe, but because of the fact that it's spinning so fast, it also appears to be very, very, very light. So it can absorb things like it has a very, very high buoyancy and a very, very low buoyancy at the same time. That doesn't really make sense in a physical way, which is why black holes and quasars are kind of difficult to talk about. They're the brightest thing in the universe. They're the darkest thing in the universe. They're rotating so fast that they can absorb things instantaneously. To give you an example, our sun could be absorbed by a quasar in less than 10 seconds. Something that would normally take billions of years in order to utilize all that energy can just be vaporized and turned into pure light, pure heat, pure energy in a matter of seconds. So exponentially faster than what anything that we would consider looking at. So as we're looking into space, they discovered quasars in the 40s and classified them in the 50s. And initially they thought that they were actually looking at nuclear explosions on the far side of the moon, but then they started realizing they were much, much further away, and they were much, much more powerful and much, much brighter than anything they had ever even considered to be possible. Quasars are, in fact, the brightest thing in our universe, with the exception of the Big Bang itself. Now let me pause and bring up a quick video that sort of explains that. So here's a quick video to kind of explain quasars.
Things like stars is anything but dark. Gas and debris from the stars they eat swirl into arcopluvian cosmic gallows known as accretion disks before making their final death plunge into the black hole. In the disk, debris spins at unfathomable speeds, pulled around by a black hole billions of times more massive than our sun. Friction in the accretion disk generates heat on a level difficult to fully appreciate. Just as hot things glow, the disk does too. So brightly, it has its own name, a quasar. Quasars shine thousands of times more brightly than even the brightest stars. I'm kidding. It's scarier than that. Quasars shine thousands of times more brightly than galaxies containing billions of stars. The first identified quasar, 3C273, has an absolute magnitude of negative 26.7, making it 4 trillion times brighter than our sun, about 100 times more luminous than the total amount of light produced by the entire Milky Way. If you put 3C273 33 light years away from us, it would shine as brightly as our sun, a mere 8 light minutes away. Blocking the brightness of a quasar with the coronagraph.
So that's just to give you an idea. That's the kind of intense energy that they were observing back in the 40s and 50s. And with that, on top of things like mortal oscillation, the study of cymatics, it was becoming more and more and more and more obvious that light, matter, and consciousness were all connected. So as you might imagine, the United States government which had made a strict decree to separate God from ruling, was not pleased with this kind of information in circulation, because essentially this was starting to explain the connections of consciousness and matter, light and energy. Now, if you're a ruler who essentially dictates on logic, that works really well until the fact that you start dipping into the realms of consciousness, because consciousness is really the realms of spirituality. So as the science started bumping up into the realms of spirituality, rather than saying, okay, maybe we were wrong, maybe there is some sort of a creative force which inhabits all of the universe, creating microscopic pulsations of incredible intensity that result in both the propagation of light and the electromagnetic field strength, which is binding all atoms, molecules, cells, and bodies together and resonates through the entire universe. They simply classified everything. Now, if we were to go back and rediscover this technology, you have to understand mortal oscillation. We could eliminate any and all forms of disease, because what they discovered was that specific vibrations, right? They resonate atoms, but they also resonate DNA. And if you resonate DNA, they discovered that you could both reinforce cellular structure or destroy microbial bodies. Imagine completely eliminating the pharmaceutical industry, because most of the money that they make is for researching diseases and how to cure them. They could have cured all these diseases utilizing mortal oscillatory rate and high frequency pulsation. They could have reinvigorated human conditions or psychological, emotional states with the positive reinforcement of cellular structure, which reinvigorates both the genetic and the cellular structure. These were things that were discovered and spoken of. Nikola Tesla, for one, Dr. Royal Raymond Rife, another, perfected these technologies that would have had they been allowed, they would have completely revolutionized the medical industry, because they would have essentially, rather than trying to chemically induce changes, they would have simply induced changes in the electromagnetic fields, the pulsations that create the standing wave of the human body on a cellular level, that would have been able to completely eliminate disease. Now, considering the fact that pharmaceuticals is the #1 industry in the United States and has been extremely influential and very profitable since before the beginning of the 19th century, these sorts of discoveries were not brought to the public, because again, it would have given exponentially more power to people of faith. It would have given exponentially more power to people who wanted to work with consciousness, and it would have eliminated the United States government's ability to impose its authority on the empirical world or the physical world, because it would become very obvious that the physical world is a manifestation of this whole other realm of energy, of light and of sound. So as these technologies were suppressed, a lot of like the ancient knowledge for cymatics, which this is flower of life. Now, this essentially, if you're looking, imagine that black hole creates a sphere, and then you have other essentially intersecting, where these fields of energies come together, and if you connect the points, you get all known geometry in the universe. So when you start explaining all the known geometry in the universe, when you start explaining how you can cure disease with the simple things as sound and light, that really, really, really breaks away from the empirical, and it really, really steps away into the spiritual. And I don't mean the Pope, and I don't mean God in the sense that there's a person sitting in a cloud that's judging you for being you or being a certain way. It's essentially that there's a perfect sense of harmonic resonance. It's resonating at the highest possible frequency that creates and manifests all of reality. The atomic structures keeps them spinning, because for one, atoms, however long the universe has been around, atoms have not even stopped spinning, right? They haven't even slowed down. So when you have atoms that create stars that eventually become black holes that absorb other stars and create the atomic spin and the resonance that manifests all of reality, it's a cycle. It doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end, which is totally non-empirical. You can't study that scientifically in the sense that it creates its own beginning and the end creates the new beginning. So when you look at this form of science, it's spirituality. So the United States government couldn't afford to have people reverting back to spirituality, because that's how it gained all of its power, was by stepping away from any form of religious and or spiritual context and saying, we only study the physical. So when they look at these sciences and they say, oh my God, the physical is the non-physical and consciousness is the same thing as matter, they had no choice in order to maintain power and control and dominance and influence and pharmaceuticals and war and over the hearts and minds of people than to just simply bury this information and hope that they could try to brainwash people into continuing on the same path. Now, that was 70 years ago. People are really starting to wake up now. People are not satisfied with the same solutions that we've been given. So if we go back to these forms of understanding, again, we could eliminate disease, we could eliminate fuel, we could eliminate poverty, famine, war. Anything and everything in our environment can be manifested or remanifested through the proper understanding of cymatics, which is essentially waves interfering with other waves, which is as simple as I can put it. Everything in the universe is energy. All light and electromagnetism swirls around itself to create higher and higher densities, right? Because if you start out with just one rotating, I can kind of put my finger in there and not worry about it getting pinched off. But as soon as you add another dimension, again, you get that sort of a randomness that ensues. And that's what they were trying to avoid. They wanted to maintain control. They were afraid of randomness, and they were definitely really afraid of people going back to a spiritual state of religiousness. Now, I don't condone religion at all, in the sense that religious leaders, I think, are tyrants, and I think that they're liars. Because guess what? The Pope has this information too. It's in their library. I guarantee you that they have it there, just like the United States government does, and they lie to people for the exact same reason, because it allows them to control people by not giving people the understanding that they need in order to live symbiotically with the universe. In other words, to live harmoniously. I like to use that term because it's in reference to sound, it's in reference to music, rather than being the same, operating in harmony. That's what I believe in. So just wanted to share this with you. I hope that this helps understand, or gives you a little bit clearer understanding of cymatics and of sound, and why your words and your thoughts are so powerful, and how mind and matter, how consciousness, energy, and the material world are all very much connected. And so as more and more people become aware of this, and more people unite their voices and unite their minds and remanifest the world, which is what's happening right now, so that we can start doing things like eliminating disease, eliminating war, eliminating famine, eliminating poverty. They don't need to exist. They're control mechanisms that are put in place to give you something to be afraid of. So we don't have to be afraid anymore, because everything is just energy. And if we harmonize the energy, if we harmonize the sound, if we harmonize the light, everything has no choice but to harmonize, because the physical manifestation of all of reality is the result of the energetic harmonies that are permeating through space and time. So thank you very much for listening, and you have yourself a great day.